One winter day in 2016, two US Embassy officials working in Havana, Cuba, heard a very loud piercing noise coming from their backyard. Soon after, their neighbors, comprised of another US family of diplomats and two Canadian public official families, reported a similar distress. "It felt like I was being struck with something," shares one of the victims. These would go on to be the first cases of Havana syndrome, a disease meant to wipe out US intelligence officials one by one. The greatest threat to the United States may not be a foreign power, but a powerful enemy lurking in the shadows. In today's video, we'll uncover the sinister plot to dismantle the very fabric of the US government, one official at a time. Get ready for the shocking revelation that will change the way you think about national security, the greatest threat to the United States. It's not hard to imagine that there are countries out there that would like to see the US weakened or destroyed, and what better way to do that than by taking out key figures in the government and intelligence agencies. It's a slow and insidious way to undermine the very fabric of American society. This kind of targeted attack on individuals is not a new strategy, and it has been used throughout history by various groups to destabilize governments and institutions. If key figures in the government or intelligence agencies are compromised, it could lead to a breakdown in communication and decision-making, as well as loss of critical information and intelligence. This could leave the US vulnerable to attack or exploitation by foreign powers. Professional diplomats, intelligence officials, and other personnel serving in American embassies abroad have reported experiencing what they describe as loud, piercing sounds. Soon after the incident, victims started noticing their health deteriorating, constant ringing in the ears, followed by pressure in the head and nausea, migraines, and severe discomfort. The consequences of this unexplained trauma include extremely painful bodily and mental suffering, which led most of them to an early retirement. According to two of the intelligence officials who were interviewed by the Washington Post, many of the affected employees believe they were the victims of a purposeful attack masterminded by a hostile government. US diplomats have been reporting Havana syndrome symptoms globally since 2016. It is thought to have first surfaced in late 2016 when CIA agents stationed at the American embassy in Havana described experiencing extreme weariness, nausea, and a pulsing pressure in their skulls. The first cases involved CIA officers, and they were kept a secret. A total of 26 people, including family members, experienced various symptoms that year. We must remember diplomatic relations between the US and Cuba were only just restored in 2015 after decades of tensions. However, within just 2 years, Havana syndrome nearly forced the closure of the embassy, and the staff was removed out of concern for their welfare. Some of the victims claim it later changed the way their bodies could move. That happened once more the following year, this time at the US consulate in Guangzhou, China. Moreover, ambassadors, members of the military, intelligence agencies, and occasionally even their families have claimed to have similar experiences in Russia and other unnamed nations in Europe and the Middle East. More than 130 people have been impacted in recent years, including a few government employees who were on American soil. Many of them claim that their health problems have persisted and prevent them from working. According to reports, hundreds of US officials died 5 years later. This massively hindered US intelligence's capacity to conduct their business abroad, and so the Havana syndrome has risen to the top of the list of US national security priorities. This is why almost 1,000 cases of anomalous health occurrences later, the issue was examined by 7 different intelligence agencies. 5 of these organizations concluded that it was very unlikely that a foreign adversary was to blame for the symptoms, whether as the result of intentional actions, such as the use of a directed energy weapon, or as a byproduct of other activities, such as electronic surveillance, that unintentionally could have caused illness, officials said. However, neither of these agencies is confident enough to rule the hypothesis of a hostile enemy attack out. Causes of Havana syndrome. According to the expert panel assembled by the US intelligence agencies, the inexplicable and sudden brain injury sustained by a limited group of American diplomats and spies abroad was brought on by pulsed electromagnetic energy produced by an external device. Mark Zaid, a lawyer in Washington, D.C., who represents some of the people impacted, disagrees with the name of Havana syndrome because occurrences like these had been happening for a long time before the general public learned about these cases. Michael Beck, a former worker at the National Security Agency, was one of his clients who was affected by similar symptoms while working in a classified hostile country back in 1996. Havana syndrome has become a battleground for compelling compelling theories. While some see it as a psychological illness, a growing trail of evidence has focused on microwaves as the most likely cause. James Lynn, a professor at the University of Illinois, suspected that microwaves were responsible. His belief was based not just on theoretical research, but the front-hand experience. He claimed to have heard the sound himself a decade later. In the 1970s, Professor Lynn set out to conduct his experiment at the University of Washington. He sat on a wooden chair in a small room lined with absorbent materials and antennae wired at the back of his head. Outside, a colleague sent microwave pulses through the antenna at random intervals. If Professor Lynn's heard the sound, he pressed the switch. Professor Lynn believed that the energy was absorbed by the soft brain tissue and converted tons of pressure waves moving inside the head, which was interpreted by the brain as sound. This occurred when high-power microwaves were delivered as pulses rather than in the low-power continuous form you get from modern microwave and ovens or other devices. Professor Lynn was careful not to dial the microwave up too high as he didn't want to have his brain damaged. And he's not the only one suspecting this. During the Cold War, areas like mind control, including microwaves, were explored by all parties. Microwave energy could penetrate the skull and disrupt the electrical and chemical activity in the brain that would essentially rewire the brain. It could lead to a variety of disruptive changes that could be profound and durable. Recently, the CIA put out a report that found no evidence of widespread use of energetic devices and stated that many cases could be explained by natural causes or stress. However, even their report could not deny that a subset of cases cannot be explained by environment or medical conditions and could have been caused by some kind of external source or device. Other studies found that pulsed electromagnetic energy, particularly in the radio frequency range, plausibly explains the core symptoms of Havana syndrome, although there remain gaps in the information. The US Director of Natural Intelligence, Avril D. Haines, and CIA Director, Williams J. Burns, reassured that they will continue to pursue the truth while caring for those affected. This brings us to our last question. Is Havana syndrome truly an attempt to take down the US? Many explanations for these incidents have been put forward: pesticide reaction, deliberate poisoning, an attack with a sonic or microwave weapon, or a covert spying device. An intelligence analysis dispels the long-contested claim that hundreds of US servicemen were targeted and sickened by a covert enemy using energy waves as a weapon, concluding that the unexplained illness, known as Havana syndrome, was not caused by the acts of a foreign foe. The controversy surrounding the causes of Havana syndrome makes it difficult to stop its prevalence, which makes it worse than we thought. Knowing the exact cause of the disease could go a long way in helping individuals know the preventative measures to take. The mysterious illness is not contagious, and it is advised that individuals should limit the length of time and distance they are exposed to radiation while the main cause of the disease is found. The Biden administration organized 2 panels of experts to investigate the causes of Havana syndrome symptoms, while the Senate approved a bill to ensure that the injured persons receive the care and compensation they deserve. The affected US citizens nonetheless suspect Russia, Cuba, or China to be the cause. What do you think is the real cause of Havana syndrome? Do you think the number of cases will decrease now the investigation has been made public? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to this channel for more updates. Thanks for watching.